Hi, my name is Andrew Payne. I'm a speaker and podcaster and campaigner. I lead in my work on men's mental health, also talk about wider wellbeing topics such as burnout, mastery of time, decision making. I deliver at corporate away days, company events, and do quite a bit of work in schools as well.
The Lighthouse Construction Industry Charity is 100% dedicated to providing the construction industry and their families with emotional wellbeing support, financial wellbeing support, and physical wellbeing support. And we've been doing that since 1956, believe it or not. It's an amazing, amazing charity to be part of. I'm really humbled to be part of what we call the Make It Visible team, which involves me driving around construction sites the length and breadth of the UK and Ireland, telling people all about the services that we offer. Not just the crisis support, but also the educational stuff as well.
For me, in terms of a misconception for mental health, it's understanding that there are many, many, many factors that affect mental health. So we know, for example, that your physical health to some degree will affect your mental health, but you are twice as likely to have diabetes if you live in an area of deprivation than an area of affluence. So of course, poverty, social inequality, they play a part as well. And so for me, really understanding the many, many different factors that affect mental health is really important.
Because it's not just mental health that we struggle with. It could be financial issues, it could be physical issues, it could be a bereavement issue, it could be a relationship issue, it could be any number of things.
Some of the factors affecting your mental health could be things like vitamin D deficiency. Many of us are inside. Many of us, when the sun is shining, we put all the sun cream on, we want to avoid the sun. And it's very difficult for our bodies to create the amount of vitamin D that it needs from food, eating healthily alone. My point is, do reach out for help, do talk to someone, and do get to the doctor and get your bloods done, because you never know what's going on.
One of the things that we've certainly noticed in the couple of years that we've been doing the Make It Visible campaign is if we give people permission, give people something that they compare themselves to. I'm 6 foot tall, I'm built like an ex-rugby player, I'm ex-military, I'm covered in tattoos. And if I can stand up in front of those people and tell my story, then if one person comes and says, mate, do you know what, I can relate to that. This is what I'm going through right now. What do you suggest I do? And that's got to be a win. And it's the same for all the lads on the team. In a minute, we've all got totally different stories, but very similar backgrounds, all with that same aim of trying to inspire people to say, do you know what, they can talk about it like that, then I can pick up the phone and maybe reach that support.
75% of people in the UK say that in the last year they've been so stressed that they don't feel that they can cope, they've been overwhelmed. And that's partly because we live in a fast-paced, complex world with difficult issues from climate change to cost of living crisis, bombarded with information, bombarded on social media by everybody else's good bits. The list goes on of challenges that we face.
Sadly, there is one statistic that drives me personally to do what I do on a daily basis, and that's the suicide rate within the industry. Now, over the last number of years, you'd have to have been living under a rock to realise that 3/4 of all suicides are men. And when you look at the construction industry, it remains as the biggest employer of males in the UK. So it stands to reason we're going to have a very high suicide rate. So at the last full set of statistics, we had 507 people within our industry that sadly ended their lives. That is one of the most shocking statistics I have ever come across.
With men's mental health, often people will say, we could just get men to talk. But actually 2/3 of men that die by suicide reach out for help in the months before their death. Men know that we should talk, we do talk. And so you might say, well, what else is going on here? And there's a lot of hidden elements that affect mental health that don't get talked about as much as they should. So for example, the testosterone crisis. We know that testosterone is hugely important for male physical and mental well-being, but the levels of testosterone, globally speaking, is dropping rapidly.
Listening is where the magic absolutely happens. Providing that safe, non-judgmental space to give somebody that permission to talk. And if you want to kind of quantify that by comparing it to the industry, you have a problem out on site. You have a problem with your drawings, your materials, your labour, you name what problem you've had. You don't give somebody a piece of paper and say, let's read this. You go and speak to the people that can help you sort it, and that's how we should be looking at MHFA, the MHFA network. They're there to guide, to support and to assist and to check in as well. If we've learned nothing from or learned anything from the whole kind of health and safety campaigns that we've been on over the years, a poster on a toilet wall doesn't do anything. It's face to face. This is where the magic really happens. It's human contact's what it's all about, isn't it?
Well, my mental health now is in a very good place. What created my interest in men's mental health is I was formerly in an abusive and violent marriage. I didn't ever feel able to talk about that. I worked with nice people at that time that I was going through it. But when I was going into work with cuts and bruises on my face and people would say, hey, what's up with your face? I'd never feel like I could say. And the impact of trying to hide that stuff, squash that stuff, it had a real impact on my mental well-being. Such that when I came out of that relationship, I literally crashed and burned for 2 years. Since then, I'm now happily remarried. I've got wonderful small boys. And I know that my mental health goes up and down, as everybody's does. I now have this great interest in mental health. It's really at the basis of what I talk about in my work. But what sparked the interest was coming out of that abusive relationship.
I got diagnosed with a condition called bipolar disorder in 2008 while I was serving in the British Army. When I came out of the hospital that I spent time in, I kept silent about all of my troubles right up until 2017, when sadly I lost a very close friend to suicide. And that's when I did a big reset, because I couldn't help feeling that if I told my friend what I'd been through, because I'd walked that line almost to its bitter end, I couldn't help feeling if I'd spoken to him about it, then we might have been more open with each other about what we'd been through, and maybe I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now.
Increasingly, workplace environments are full of well-being initiatives, mental health first aid champions, you name it. And it's great, it's really good. And I just see it becoming more common, even more so. And it has to, because for all that well-being initiative, people are still really, really struggling. If you look at the stats and the data, psychological safety as a term didn't exist for me back in 2000. That was when I was going through those dark times. Everybody at work, it was not, we got on well, but it was best bits on display. There was no room for mental health. Keep work and home life separate. Don't bring your home problems into work. And I think that is changing, and that's really good.
So the change is happening. Some people say we're riding the crest of a wave on this now. We're not. We're still on the paddle out. We're still paddling out to get out to that wave that's breaking. We've still got a long way to go. The network of mental health first aiders that we've got across the industry is absolutely fantastic. There's a lot of stigma around mental health first aiders, and MHFA kind of gets a bit of a bashing on social media in particular. And MHFA, it doesn't work, but in my experience it does. At the Lighthouse Construction Industry Charity, we provide mental health first aid training, and whilst it might not be about becoming a counsellor, it's definitely not about counselling and therapy and becoming a psychiatrist and stuff. What it does, it makes that person really aware, and it almost changes their mindset. And if that person is in a position of authority on site, just spending a couple of days, even half a day on a mental health awareness course, they come off it and they go, whoa. We measure their knowledge before and afterwards. It's part of the feedback. Generally, the knowledge before is usually sitting about a 3 out of 10. The knowledge afterwards is about a 9 out of 10. Just to clarify one thing, a mental health first aider is not there to fix anybody. They're there to listen. They're there to be that arm around the shoulder until the professional help can arrive. And I think that's really important to understand how a mental health first aider fits in the organisation.
Crucial first point in addressing mental health at work is this aspect of psychological safety, because if people don't have psychological safety, they won't be open and honest, fully open and honest about what's going on for them. And many people still don't really know what psychological safety is. It's a bit of a trending buzzword now, but it's that thing where in your team, for example, if you have psychological safety, if you were struggling with something, you just say, I'm struggling. If you'd made a mistake that you could get away with, you just tell people in your team, because maybe they might make the same mistake. If you disagreed with what your boss was saying, you'd be like, oh, I don't see the point of this. You'd be completely safe to be completely transparent, and we know that psychological safety is at the heart of the best performing team.
And the most important thing, I think, is to talk to somebody, is finding somebody that you can talk to that is not going to judge. Now, with all the stigma and all the banter and all the lad kind of culture that goes on a construction site, that might be difficult. It's very much a boys' club, and we learn from the people that we learn from. In the same way we learn our trade by being an apprentice, we are an apprentice to the older generation, the guys and gals that are leading us. And if we see them behave in a certain way, naturally we're going to behave that certain way. Recently I've been out doing quite a bit of work in colleges, and we do a lot of work with apprenticeship schemes and trying to address the skills shortage, trying to tell people just how wonderful this industry is. What I'm noticing in the colleges, it's starting there. It's already started there. They're acting the same way. They're talking the same way. They are almost stigmatizing somebody if they want to talk openly, or if somebody's slightly different, that banter it does make the day go quicker, and it does forge relationships. Just some of the banter can be really, really close to the mark. You don't know how that person often is taking that banter. You don't know just how far past the line you've got. A really great thing to remember is you never know what's going on behind that smile.
I would encourage you to reach out for help. There are good people all around that want to help you. There are organisations of every variety and skill and niche that would be there to support you.
Help is out there, that you don't have to go through these experiences alone. There are people out there that will listen. Lighthouse Construction Industry Helpline is accessible 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. It's free of charge. It's totally confidential. There are no barriers to getting in touch. A lot of different nationalities, a lot of different languages spoken in any single canteen. We can speak them all. We've got a live chat service where you can just tap away, so you could be sitting in the canteen having a chat on your phone. You might be going through a therapy session or a counselling session with one of our amazing people on the other end of that line. That's got to be the first port of call, is reach out, somebody you can trust. And the helpline number there has got to be one of the best ones around.
And there are practical things that we can do as leaders, as managers, so that we create psychological safety. But if there's one thing that you must do in your workplace, it's create psychological safety.